Today I want to talk about some difficult things that I need to say about things that some of our board of directors have said at meetings that I have been witness to. And they're not difficult for me to say, but they might be difficult to hear because I want people to be aware of things that are said and done at meetings, which is why I believe is one of the main reasons why they do not want the meetings to be recorded and placed on a public or private website for members to review and hear all of the things that are put on the record. So, there are a couple of things that have been extremely disturbing to me to listen to, and I want to remind people that these are your elected community officials and people who are on the board to represent our community and to represent members and make decisions and new bylaws and rules and regulations for us. So part of the process is that we have, I believe, 9 committees, it might be 8 now, and committees do work, and then at every monthly board meeting they bring certain suggestions to the board, and then the board will discuss it and either take a vote or take no action. So most recently I was at a committee meeting called the Environment Committee, which one of our board directors, who is now the president of the board, his name is Phil, he sits on the Environment Committee, number one, because his background, I believe, is environmental, and that is one of his focus areas. And that committee has been tasked with looking at expanding the Brewster Garden. And for many of you who may or may not know, we have this Brewster Garden area down at the Orchard Center. And a couple of years ago, at least a couple of years ago, this committee was tasked with looking at expanding the garden and making it accessible by all members, including people who may have disabilities and need assistance to navigate the area. Well, in the most recent Environment Committee meeting, there was a discussion. It's been an ongoing discussion for, like I said, a couple of years. And this director, Phil, interrupted the conversation and said, why don't we just not do the ADA requirements? Now, this was very concerning for me, not just because I'm a person who has worked with people with disabilities, but because the board of directors had specifically tasked the Environment Committee to make the space accessible by all. And here was one of our directors suggesting that we do not need to adhere to the ADA laws and rules to make the space accessible to all. And when certain people had suggested, that wouldn't be good, he basically became frustrated and impatient and said, well, this has been going on for 3 years. So he just wanted to move things along and make the project move forward because members of this committee were taking their time to explore and adhere to the Americans with Disabilities Act. So this is a very big concern for me. I'm going to add information to that because this is not a one-time issue. A few years ago, there was discussion about a kayak launch at one of our beaches, Elm Beach. As some of you may know, has these mats where people with disabilities or in a wheelchair can use the mats to get close to the water. And this was brought up during a board meeting about having the mats expanded down to the beach by the water. And one of the directors, Michael Pachersky, basically said that people in wheelchairs and people with disabilities should not be going in the water. I mean, it's really shocking, right? Or going boating and doing activities like a kayak, where we've been asking for a kayak launch, because they don't need to be going in the water. So I want you to be very aware of the people who are on the board and who are making decisions for you, and one of which has been elevated to the role of the president. So please be aware of this.